Campus to Canton. Campus to Canton on the Better Sports Network.
Chris Moxley, my friend. It's been about 5 weeks since we've done a show together. It's been a hot minute.
It has. It's been a while.
Last time we were on the show together, I should start out. Sorry. This is Matt Bruening. That's Chris Moxley, Campus to Canton on the Better Sports Network. Last time we did a show together, it was an amazing show. I saw tons and tons of rave reviews.
Yeah.
We kind of set social media ablaze. We set fire to one Felix H. Sharp II Esquire. Felix H. Sharp II Esquire. World of Fire with the right take that Will Smith is better than Drake. We're going to start the show off today. I want you to give me your 5 rappers that are better than Drake. Now, I do want to point out, this is not the 5 best rappers in the world or anything like that. I'm not diving into that area. But these 5 are definitely better than Drake. I've got my own 5, but I want to hear your 5 first. Give it to me.
So you just put yours in the show sheet. I did not put mine in at all. And we have 3 that overlap.
Oh, let's go. All right. Hit it with. You want to do 5? You give me your 5, I'll give you my 5. So go ahead.
Okay, my 5 appears on your list, and that is Weird Al Yankovic,
Yes.
the polka master himself, cover of many great rap songs, really. Amish Paradise at the top, probably. One of the greatest parody renditions of all time. But, I mean, when he's talking about his life in the Amish, man, that's better than anything I've heard Drake put out.
I'm with you. I mean, dude, you can't tell me that you can't go to the gym and get, as Felix would put it, a sweat on listening to Amish Paradise. Or you know what? You know what's probably a great motivator for working out? I'm fat, and you know it. Or I know it. That's going to motivate you to work out, right?
That's a good point. What about White and Nerdy?
There you go. Oh, dude, that you get the headband on, the high socks, the tube socks. Oh, yeah, that gets you going right there. My 5 is probably the only, I shouldn't say serious, a legitimate rap, Ludacris. I love Ludacris. I can
traditional rap.
Yeah, traditional rapper right there. He's my number 5. I'm going to give you my number 4 since we just talked about it. It's Weird Al. I mean, again, I don't. There's other songs we could go to. You know, a nice little parody off Michael Jackson's song. We won't talk about that here. But another great song. I mean, dude, it's just bangers, banger after banger. There's no skips on that soundtrack. You're listening to every single song.
Straight out of Linwood.
There you go. Who's your 4?
So my 4 is also on your list, and that's Lil Dicky.
I love Lil Dicky.
The Jewish kid from Philadelphia who loves what would you call funny rap? Funny rap.
Yes,
essentially, is what it is.
Yeah.
But the dude can rap. Bottom line,
man, there's not many people like I would just want to like trade places with for a day. I think he's one of them.
Dave Bird.
The way that your mind has to work to be able to come up with I could never. You could give me 10 days and I could not come up with something the way that he does in like 10 seconds. Like there is that rap that he did. I don't know the name of the show. I know it's very popular.
Dave?
No, Dave. Oh, I love Dave. No. On FX. No, he went on like a very popular rap morning show, and I don't remember the name of it, but he did that rap like right off the cuff. Like they said like, hey, can you do something? He just did it right before he really started becoming famous. I was like, I would never be able to do that. I would argue probably 98% of the world could not do that. He's my number 2. I mean, I think it's just phenomenal. I love the show on FX. I think all of his stuff is amazing. So I'll go to my 3, which is the Beastie Boys. It's the same. You talk about getting in the gym and working out. You can't tell me listening to their music does not just get you pumped up. I am not someone, in my younger days, I like to run. I do not anymore. I do everything I can to not run. If I put that on I might want to go run 3 miles. I might beat Felix in a race listening to Beastie Boys. So they're my number 3.
That's good. I actually considered them, but left them off the list. My number 3 is probably my most traditional rapper as well. And it is the second greatest rapper of all time, and that is the Andre 3000.
I should have put him in mine. I don't know why I didn't.
For my money, he's got everything that you want in a rapper. Plus, he's super creative. Plus, he is involved in a whole bunch of other different things. I mean, Andre 3000 is Pretty much all of early Outcast, and then all of honestly, all
it's all
is great between him. And I could put Big Boy on here too, but Andre 3000 is really a lyrical genius, just perfect flow. He's got everything.
I agree. It takes me back to my high school days. I know you like to thank your. I don't want to cuss right there, but yeah, it's I love it, love it. So my number 2 we already talked about is Little Dicky. So I'm gonna let you give your number 2. I imagine we have the same number 1, but I'm not sure. So go ahead, give me your 2.
My number 2 is Natalie Portman. You can hear her on Natalie's rap from The Lonely Island.
I was not expecting that, but
if you listen to her rap, she's a really good understanding of how like the syntax works and like delivery works.
Yeah,
I was really impressed. Not something you want to listen to around kids, of course, but Natalie's rap from that she did with The Lonely Island on SNL is some very high quality rapping ability, and it gets you pumped. She's mad, she's angry. Sure. She is not that pretty girl that Hollywood makes her out to be. She's tough.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little disappointed I'd even just put Lonely Island on here because them alone.
I thought about it. I actually thought about putting like each of them individually because they're all involved in different raps.
I mean, Andy Samberg. I always forget what the other guy's name is, but obviously you got Justin Timberlake who does stuff with. I mean, that's a great. Ludacris. Thank you. You're gone. Lonely Island has now moved up into number 5, but number 1. The King of Miami, right? It's got to be the same guy.
Oh, of course.
Okay. I'm just checking. Oh, God. I'm so excited. I'm yanking my microphone down. The King of Miami, it's Will Smith himself.
You could listen to, just throw Will Smith on. Banger, 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 banger. Just, parents just don't understand. Nightmare on My Street. Those aren't even deep cuts, but I mean, we're talking songs that aren't in your regular rotation. Getting jiggy with it, Miami. I mean, Eminem said it best. Will Smith don't got to cuss in his raps to sell records.
I mean, that's coming from arguably, I don't even think it's arguably, but the greatest rapper of all time. And I don't hear him out here talking about Drake. Has Eminem ever said anything about Drake?
Not that I've ever heard.
So Felix is probably triggered somewhere. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Worried about his fake lifting in the gym. He only posts videos on, by the way, working out like once every 3 weeks, and it's always leg day because if you don't post it, you don't do it. So that's regardless. We are a college football show here, so I guess we should start talking about college football. But you guys have your favorite top 5 rappers. Drop them in the comments. Let us know.
Let us know who is your favorite rapper that is better than Drake.
Yeah.
You could, 140 characters. Do with that what you will.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to drop, how many could you?
I think you get 4,000. You get 4,000 if you're a Twitter Blue subscriber.
Hey, look, Anthony's letting us know in the ear. Notorious B.I.G. That's a great call too. Great shout right there. I mean, look, you could probably 140 characters, probably drop 10, 15, and I don't think you'd be stretching if you went 10, 15 better than Drake.
The best thing I've ever heard Drake put out was that AI song with The Weeknd. That wasn't even.
No lie spotted. All right, we're gonna talk Heisman odds. So new Heisman odds dropped via DraftKings, and Chris, I want you to give us a little bit of a breakdown of Heisman finalists before we talk about some of our favorite bets, long shots, worst bets that you can make.
Yeah. So I wrote an article back in January, and I kind of profiled what the last 20-ish years of the Heisman have looked like. So there are 3, I think, criteria that a player needs to hit in order to make them a legitimately good bet. One is they need to be on a top 10 team. 15 of 18 since 2005 have been top 10 teams. They need that A, national profile, and B, that Heisman moment. And a top 10 team usually has that opportunity to deliver that Heisman moment at some time in their schedule, or else they're not going to be up there in the top 10. Second is you're way better off betting on a quarterback. Fortunately, the last 18, and we haven't had a running back win since 2010 when that was Derrick Henry. It's just not a running back award anymore. I really don't even want to bet on a wide receiver. I mean, Devonta Smith is like that outlier, but still, it's just a quarterback position. So you're much better off just taking those bets. And then I weight situation and talent almost 50-50.
Okay.
So last year's a great example too of Max Duggan is not what I would call a great quarterback, and Stetson Bennett is not what I would call a great quarterback. You're a Heisman finalist because you're on top 4 team in the country. You're putting up major stats. You have good offense around you. Like, there's a lot of reasons that a situation can elevate an average player. And we have players on our list tonight that I think fall into that criteria. So I'm not obsessed with the talent aspect of this. Like, obviously, Caleb Williams is plus 600 to win the Heisman. He's the number one odds, 6-1 odds.
Right.
He's the most talented, and he has good offense, right? Like, so obviously it matters some. Drake May is another example, but it doesn't matter as much as I think people want it to. How about that?
I agree. So I want to ask you a question. You may not have the answer because I know one of them is Lamar Jackson. Who are the other two? You mentioned 15 of 18 were on top 4 teams. I honestly can't think of who they are. Derrick Henry and Devonta Smith were. They won the Heisman, or they won the national championships, I believe, the year they won theirs. So who's the other two? Lamar with Louisville, obviously just amazing season, especially with what he did rushing wise, but they were not a top team.
No, they weren't. And I listed it in my article that you can find on the website, but
Campus2Canton.com.
Campus2Canton.com, but now I don't remember off the top of my head. Lamar was actually the only player outside the top 15 who has won it in the last 20 years too.
That just speaks to how great he was. Because I was thinking
I think the other ones are like 11 and 12th or something.
Gotcha. Okay.
You really basically need to be on a top 15 team. Period.
I was thinking about that, and I was like, God, there's no way. Like, the only one I was thinking about, I know Baker, like, they made the playoffs, so it couldn't have been Baker Mayfield. That was a good Oklahoma team. I'm trying to think of who. I really have no idea. Was it Trevor Lawrence? See, they would have made it too.
No,
have you found it? Have I done a good enough job of stalling yet?
No.
No. Okay, so no, you're good. While you're looking that up, we're going to talk about the odds. So you mentioned Caleb Williams is the favorite, plus 600. The next guys up there, you got Jordan Travis at plus 1,200. You have Jaden Daniels at plus 1,200. Quinn Ewers at plus 1,200. Cade Klubnik at plus 1,400. Bo Nix at plus 1,600. Those are kind of the top guys. Drake May, who I missed, plus 1,500. Those are the kind of top guys in the odds right now. Who is your favorite odd to back to win the Heisman?
So my favorite is the guy that you're going to pick, but he's your guy, so I let you have him. Well, I filled it in first, and I knew you were going to take him too. But I like Michael Penix Jr. a lot, and he hits basically every criteria that I'm looking for. I think Washington can finish as a top 10 team in the country. He's going to have those Heisman moments that we talk about. He plays Oregon. He plays USC. He plays Utah. I think he can beat Oregon. I think he can beat Utah. Can he beat USC? That is a game that the spread might be like 4.5 points if we were to make it today. And I think that he has a chance to do so. And if he scores 45 points against USC in a loss where he loses by 3, I think that's a good enough game from him, right? And so I think that Washington has that part of the profile. I also, obviously, he's a quarterback. The situation around him is great. He has 2 receivers who I think are excellent in Jalen McMillan and Roma Dunze. I think the team is going to be better this year, which means they're not going to take bad losses, like because their defense can't hold. And will that reduce his stats maybe a little bit? Possibly, but they're still not going to be great. They're just going to be better than they were last year, which was like a bottom 30 unit in the country. They have 2 of the best edge rushers in the country. They brought in Jabbar Muhammad from Oklahoma State, who's a really good cover corner. I think they can be better, but just bad enough to have Michael Penix put up the stats. So I like him at 15-1. I don't think those are bad odds.
Yeah, I mean, especially if they are able to win the Pac-12 and he's able to take Washington back to the playoffs for the first time since 2016. I actually believe that's the last time Pac-12 team made the playoffs. Was that because obviously Oregon made it in that first year in 2015?
Yeah.
No, they have. Yeah, that was.
And USC definitely didn't under Clay Helton.
Yeah. So I'm really struggling to figure out who these players are. One of them's got to be Robert Griffin III, right? There's no way Baylor.
Oh, you're still stuck on the.
I'm very much stuck on that.
I will get you an answer. I promise.
I'm looking right now. Baylor was definitely. I'm looking at the final AP poll of 2011. Baylor was not in the top 15. So Robert Griffin III is one of them. Could Johnny Manziel be the other one? Did Texas A&M finish that high? I know they beat Alabama. That would.
What did Oklahoma finish in 2009 when Sam Bradford won?
That one I don't know. I mean, I guess I could go back.
That could be.
This is,
I will tell you.
Look that up while I talk about my guy, Quinn
I'll give you your answer.
Ewers. He is the best bet. Now, you're not going to make a ton of money off betting on him. He is plus 1,600, so he is up there near the top. He's not plus 1,200. He's up near the top. He's not the favorite, but he is one of the favorites. But look, We've talked a lot about him. You and me, we've kind of been hated on by one Felix H. Sharp, who also hates Will Smith. That, he thinks Quinn Ewers overrated, can't throw the ball, same completion percentage as Anthony Richardson, who just went as like the 4th pick overall. My guy, Anthony Richardson, by the way, for those of you who have been listening. I know. I think that this offense is going to take a major step forward. It's the 2nd year for him in that system. He had an injury last year, not only to his shoulder, but also to his hand. If you looked at the way he played in those first couple of games before he had that injury to his hand, which was a reported finger injury, but we never got any confirmed details on what it was, he was having an amazing season. He completed 65%, then 70 and 71 before that injury. You can't tell me that's bad. That is very good for a guy who hadn't played in almost 2 years. He has now played a full season. He's got all the work this spring, the summer. He's been working out. All the reports are that he's throwing the ball extremely well, got an improved offensive line. A lot of those guys who were starting freshmen last year, 2nd year working together, we're going to see an improved offensive line. He's got a ton of weapons around him. And again, you have Steve Sarkisian. Texas doesn't have a tough schedule either. They've got a couple hard games, one of which Kansas, I believe it's Kansas State, where they have to travel to Kansas State. It's not easy to go up there and play. They obviously have to travel to Alabama, but it's not the same Alabama we're used to seeing. They do get Oklahoma, who I think is going to be a better game this year. Dylan Gabriel should be playing. They won't be running the Wildcat offense with the running back and quarterback in the Red River Shootout. Neutral field, so there's no real determination on who's going to have the edge there. If Texas can beat Alabama, I still think that gives them a chance to lose one game. If they lose to Alabama, they can't lose another one. But if they beat Alabama, which I think they will, they can lose a game and still make the Big 12 championship and still make the playoffs. And if they do that, recruiting pedigree, name, getting Texas back into the playoffs is going to matter. And that's why I have someone else on here too, as one of my long shot bets. To me, this race is wide open. Because you would say the by far the favorite, and the betting tells you this as well, is Caleb Williams. But we know that the likelihood of him winning that is very slim. It just seems like these voters do not want to have any back-to-back Heisman winners or 2-time Heisman winners. We've got that once in Archie Griffin, and we've had players who probably deserve for that to happen, and they've made sure that hasn't happened. I think they're going to do the same thing with Caleb.
I just don't think it's going to happen. I will bet against it until it does, essentially. Yeah. And I'm not paying a 6-1 price for it. Right. I'd much rather bet Drake May, who I think has a much longer shot, but could put up the numbers to do it. Like, I will... Once it happens again, I think it maybe gets normalized, and you could see voters like do it back. It was the same reason LeBron didn't win every MVP for like 10 straight seasons.
You get fatigue. I mean,
essentially, it's voter
just give it to him. Yeah. Did you find the last guy? You got to tell me. I'm dying to know. Was it Sam Bradford in Oklahoma? I thought they made the championship game that year and got blown out. Did they not?
No, it wasn't Sam Bradford.
Okay, I'm telling you, it's Johnny Manziel. Give me your long shot, though. Who's your long shot that you're willing to throw a couple shekels down on?
I know that you won't like this one.
I don't at all, but yeah, go ahead.
So I don't hate Devin Brown, who's 60-1. And the logic. So Devin Brown, Ohio State quarterback, going to be quarterback 2 when the season starts. Any Ohio State quarterback is, I think, worth a bet on, right? So like Kyle McCord is 2,200, Devin Brown is 6,000. That is the starter backup difference. If Kyle McCord doesn't play well, or Kyle McCord gets hurt early on, which I hope neither happen because Kyle McCord's a friend of the show, yes. And we've had him on a couple of our shows many times. He's a great dude, good player. But Devin Brown's just going to step into an offense that has 2 first-round wide receivers in Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr., and then probably 2 future first rounders scattered throughout that roster. I just want to bet on that Ohio State room, and I'll take the guy who's super discounted and just assume the competition maybe is a little bit close, and he might in some way get in. 60-1 odds for Ohio State quarterback. Considering how close I think the competition could be, I think it's pretty good odds.
I don't hate it because of the odds. There is a shot that obviously he gets out there, but I just don't think it's going to happen. Mine, sticking with Ohio State, is Marvin Harrison Jr. And we just talked about it's not really a wide receiver award. Devonta Smith won it 2,200. It's not even that great of a bet either. But here's the thing. I just mentioned it. This year is wide open. by far the favorite, as I mentioned, Caleb Williams, we don't think is going to win it. If Texas fails, Quinn Ewers is out. If Marvin Harrison Jr. has a great season, but so does Kyle McCord and or Devin Brown, whoever it is, I think both are going to make it. Joe Milton, maybe. Jordan Travis, maybe. Like, there's a lot of maybes. But this year looks a lot to me like that COVID year where Devonta Smith won it. And if Marvin Harrison can go out there and dominate, which I think he will, he has a real shot of winning it, because I don't think that they're going to give the credit to the Ohio State quarterback. They're just not. If it was maybe C.J. Stroud coming back for his second year or his third year, they would. But first year in the system, they're going to say Marvin Harrison helped this dude win it, especially if he dominates, which, man, if you look at that Ohio State schedule, it is cake. They have the seventh it's like the seventh easiest schedule in the Big Ten, or strongest, whatever. It's not hard. It's Michigan. That's it. Notre Dame could be a test on the road, but that's it. I mean, they have a fairly easy schedule. Marvin Harrison should dominate. And if he does, I think he's got a really good shot to win. You throw a couple bucks on there. Maybe you're not going to win as much money if Devin Brown wins it, but I think there's a better shot that Marvin Harrison wins it than Devin Brown.
So I actually wrote earlier in the offseason about Marvin Harrison Jr. And I talked about why I thought that was a interesting bet because of basically the reasons you laid out. We don't know what the quarterback position is going to look like, but we probably know that Marvin Harrison is going to get 1,500 yards, 1,400 yards. We have that understanding.
Easily,
yeah. And so I think there's a really good reason to bet on him. And so that was when he was plus 4,500.
Yeah. And
that article, by the way, we got some great value on there if you were following along. Yeah. Campus2Canton, baby. We're ahead of the gamut of this stuff. But yeah, I don't hate it. I do have the other two for you if you want to answer before we go to break.
Was Robert Griffin III not one?
RG3 was one.
Okay, so I got that one. Who was the other one?
Tim Tebow second when Florida finished 13th.
I was not expecting. Wait, second? You mean his first one? Tim Tebow only won one.
Did he not win two? But
no,
in between? Oh, I'm thinking national champ. I'm thinking national championships.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So Tim Tebow's Heisman, which was in between the national championships.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I was not expecting that. Yeah. The one last thing with Marvin Harrison is we talked a lot about this last year when we were talking about possibly Will Anderson being a decent bet to win the Heisman. The storyline's there for Marvin Harrison Jr. All the talk is if he doesn't get knocked out in that game, Ohio State wins the national championship. He's already by far considered the best wide receiver in college. Many people consider him the best player on that team in general. All he has to do is go out there and dominate. I think he's going to be in the Heisman conversation. But Matt, I don't know why I called you Matt. I'm Matt. That's Chris. Other way. I'm doing really bad at that. We have the same best bet, but different worst bets, and we're going to find out what those are after the break. Stick around. It's Campus2Canton Better Sports Network.
Campus2Canton.
So let's get into some best ball philosophy here.
Yeah.
In your experience, going back many, many, many years, drafting in national tournaments, Bradley, have you historically been shying away from the running back position in favor of wide receivers? In favor of, if you're drafting in the FFPC tight end premium format, in favor of tight ends as well? Is that the smart play when you're drafting this early in the drafting season?
Yeah, so taking value is going to be huge, and looking at like running backs and wide receivers, like you want to take a look at how the structure is. So you mentioned earlier the FFPC has a couple different types, like they've got super flex and one quarterback, and so that's going to change your strategy a little bit if you have only two wide receivers or if you're drafting three wide receivers. And of course, the PPR is a different aspect compared to other formats or other tournaments. And so keeping in mind the pass catching upside of some of the running backs may be more valuable in those formats. So the Austin Ecklers, the Christian McCaffreys may be more value because they get more receptions, and so like I loved taking late shots a couple years ago on like the JD McKissicks of the world who would get 50 receptions really cheaply. So that's something to consider. But when it comes to like overall value, like you're drafting, you're in the middle of a draft, and you just notice that, I don't know, maybe it's Chris Godwin has fallen 14 spots, but Chris Godwin was not in your plans to be drafting. Like maybe you don't have a strong player take on Chris Godwin, or we're not like, my take is that I don't think the Bucs are going to be particularly good this year. But for him to be dropping, let's say 14 spots is more than a full round. And based on the data that we've seen, if you get to draft a player more than 12 spots ahead or behind ADP, so they drop 12 or more spots, you have an 84% edge over the rest of the tournament players who are drafting this player, because typically this player isn't going to drop. The average draft position is a really strong indicator of where a player is going to go. And I think that is also on the flip side. If you are reaching too much, you're giving up value in your drafts. And so when it comes to value-based drafting, you need to consider, just because this guy is in my plans or I don't have a strong player take on him, maybe that's your opportunity to sprinkle in some shares of this player at a good price.
Gotta love it. Gotta love the drum lines. That's Chris Moxley. Got it right this time. I am Matt Bruening. I am not Chris Moxley. This is Campus to Canton on the Better Sports Network. We were talking Heisman odds, and if you want to bet on some, you can go to FanDuel. Have up to $2,500 no sweat on the first bet by using the fantasyalarm.com/FanDuel code. Join FanDuel Sportsbook. Deposit $10 or more. Place your first bet up to $2,500. Get $2,500 in bonus back if you lose, which is amazing because your boy Matty B here, I lose. I lost quite often last year. That's great. That's great news for me. Mox, we were talking about Heisman odds and bets. New Heisman odds came out on DraftKings. We talked about our long shots, our best bets. We talked about our long shots and our favorites. Give me your best bet on the current odds.
Yeah, one of them was Marvin Harrison Jr. I didn't quite view him as a long shot. 22-1, but it is low enough that he should probably be considered that. And we share this one, and that's University of Georgia quarterback Carson Beck. We saw what Stetson Bennett did last year in this offense, and it is a new offensive coordinator. Mike Bobo is taking over for Todd Monken, and it's going to be a different system, probably a little bit more conservative. But Carson Beck is a much better player than Stetson Bennett was. He's a higher recruit. Stetson Bennett was a walk-on. Carson Beck was a 4-star. He showed out in practice. I think because Bennett had won the previous year, he retained the job, and he didn't look bad doing so. He made it to the Heisman ceremony. Yeah. Or did he finish fourth, or he made it to the Heisman ceremony? Maybe both.
He made it. Yeah. He
finished,
actually, I think he finished. No, he finished behind Dugan. He finished fourth, but he was at the Heisman because he had the Letterman jacket on and jeans. They were walking through.
I guess if your percentage close enough, you get to go. Is I don't remember exactly what the rule is, but Carson Beck is a better player. The team is essentially the same year over year. They just replace every dude they have and just with a bigger, stronger, faster guy. I think he's a good bet at plus 2,000. I really do. He's not losing this job. He's much better than Brock Vandegrift is probably. Gunnar Stockton. Like, he does not have a quarterback that he's really contending with on this roster. And so I think they upgraded their receiver core. They allowed McConkey. They brought in Dominic Lovett from Missouri, who I think is a really talented, shifty receiver who can create after the catch. They already had Brock Bowers, who some are projecting as a top 5 tight end or top 5 pick in next year's class. There's a lot of reasons to like Beck, and this Georgia team's win total is 11.5. So, I mean, it's not like they're going to lose more than one game, probably.
Yeah, I mean, Carson Beck he has a real shot of getting there, which is why I feel good at least putting him on as my best bet, because it would probably be the upset of upsets if Georgia loses a game this year. They have arguably one of the easiest schedules in all of college football. They really only have 2 tough games on their schedule. And depending on what you even think Tennessee is, if they can compete. And then
I have them favored by double digits in all but one game this year.
Right. I mean,
for what it's worth in my numbers.
The big question is obviously going to be what the change is in this offense with Bobo coming in now, with Todd Monken going on to the NFL and taking over the Baltimore Ravens. There are some that worry that maybe they won't be as pass happy, but still, you talked about the beginning of this. Got to be on a good team and you got to produce. He's not going to hand the ball off 60 times a game. He's going to be passing the ball. So with that team and how successful they're going to be, I think there's really no better bet on the board. He is 2,000 or plus 2,000. You said here on FanDuel. He is also plus 2,000 on BetGM, where actually Marvin Harrison Jr. is plus 2,500. So even
Get a little
better
value.
odds. And you can get $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you use fantasyalarm.com/BetGM on that.
Jeez.
I'm going to give you I know it's great. Hey, look. I can take as much money back as I would. Look, Dwight doesn't like it when I lose money. So, and if you watch some of my prize picks, we had some hot weeks. The good thing you and Austin saved me on some weeks so that our average was good over the season last year, because I brought us down in a major way. It was not pretty. My worst bet, Quinshon Judkins, who I love. I think he's a phenomenal player. I mean, Felix is always talking about how he was right on Zach Wilson. He tries to claim Anthony Richardson from me. The realest of real people know I've been on Anthony Richardson since he was a high schooler. That's how long I've known him.
Top 10 quarterback in his recruiting class, by the way. It's not like we're shooting from deep there.
Oh no, we're shooting from with Anthony Richardson because he was top 10. It wasn't top 3. He was top 10. That's shooting from deep. But Quinshon Judkins, love the kid. I'll be honest, I didn't even expect him to have the freshman season that he did. By far the best freshman running back. Plus 5,000 odds, which I don't have, or plus 5,000. I don't have an issue if you want to put a couple bucks on it. But you mentioned we have not seen a running back win it since 2014 in Derrick Henry, and that was a special season from Derrick Henry. They won the national championship. Guys, look.
2010.
Oh, was it 2010? I'm sorry, 2010. I said 2014, didn't I? 2010.
Yeah.
Ole Miss is not making playoffs, folks. They're not going to be close. They might be a top 15 team, maybe. So you're already looking at, as Mox said, all the way back to 2005. Got to be a top 15 team. Got to be on a good team. There's 2 strikes against Ole Miss right there. Unless Quinshon goes out there and runs for like 2,500 yards, I don't think that he's what.
No, you're good. Sorry, I got the date wrong on Henry's Heisman. You're good.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, the 2010, that was like...
Yeah, I was thinking of Mark Ingram, sorry.
Okay. I was just, I was just going to roll with it. I wasn't going to correct you. Let the people in the comments correct us. I thought 2014 sounded right.
It was 2015. I was thinking of the other Alabama running back that won in the last 20 years.
The smaller one that everybody makes fun of, that picture when they see him standing next to the giant that is Henry. But anyway, see, Quinshon Judkins is going to have a season of seasons to be even, I think, make the ceremony, even though, as I've mentioned, this is a wide open year. Ole Miss is just not that good. Now, if Judkins was on Alabama, if Judkins was on Michigan, if Judkins was on USC, Texas, I think there'd be a shot of him at least making it. But Ole Miss is just not a team that's going to compete this year. I would not be surprised if they lose 3 or 4 games, which is not likely going to get you in the top 15. So I love the player, but I just think the odds are way out there. If you even throw a couple bucks on, realistically, you're just flushing down. Go buy yourself a cup of coffee or a subscription to Campus2Canton.com. Costs as much as a cup of coffee. Just saying. Chris and Austin will win you money. I'll lose it for you. Go ahead.
There you go. Mine is a guy who's 30-1. So, higher odds. We're talking about Ohio State a lot tonight. But I'm not betting on Travion Henderson to win the Heisman. I think he's talented. I think he's very talented. Mayan Williams is still there. Mayan Williams is going to get 45 to 50% of running back touches still. There's just no feasible path to the Heisman without injury to Williams. There just isn't. He's not even the most talented player on his team in terms of skill position players. I think he's probably third behind Emeka Egbuka and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think it's more likely that the quarterback on that team wins it. just 30-1 plus 3,000 doesn't make any sense to me for this valuation. You're basically saying, hey, the player that we saw as a recruit 3 years ago is going to take over. He was comped to Christian McCaffrey as a recruit. Like, that was his comp.
Yeah.
Haven't seen it. He's going to split touches. That's just throwing money down the drain.
Yeah, I mean, if it was Michigan, maybe, because we know they're going to run the ball more than they pass. At least we think. There's rumors they're going to open it up, and I'll believe it when I see it.
They're still splitting too. Like, you're looking at Blake Corum at 2,800. Like, I could have put that as my worst bet too, because Ivan Edwards is going to get half the work.
That's very true. You know who the worst bet is actually on Michigan? It's J.J. McCarthy. How is he listed at 1,800?
See, I could make the case.
No,
I could make the case
don't do it, Chris.
The defense is going to be worse this year. If he takes a step forward, he's going to be relied on more. If they win the big games against Penn State and Ohio State, who are both going to be top 5 teams. That's the story for J.J. McCarthy. I can see it. Am I investing him at 18-1? No. Like, I am personally not doing so, but I can at least craft the story. I can't craft the story for Travion Henderson. I can't craft the story for an 8-5 Ole Miss Quinshon Judkins. Like, he's not even on a good team.
I can craft a story for Travion Henderson.
Okay.
Kyle McCord gets injured in week 1 and goes down. Marvin Harrison Jr. opts out. So does Emeka Egbuka. Devin Brown comes in and he's not that good. And then Mayan Williams hurts himself and he's out the season. And they just hand the ball off to Travion Henderson.
And Ohio State still manages to win
and
10
still
games.
wins every week.
11 games.
Makes it into the playoffs.
Okay.
Runs for 2,100 yards and 20 touchdowns. He's in the Heisman ceremony. Probably not winning it, but he's at the Heisman ceremony.
Okay, I'm trying to tell like a nonfiction story. Right now, you're telling like a science fiction story, and that is where we're deferring.
You said craft a story, my friend.
That's true. That's true. I should have been more specific.
I mean, so what? His Heisman moment's gonna have to come in Ohio State game then, because East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota. My God, a murderer's row of opponents.
Well, Michigan always plays like the worst out of conference schedule you can possibly imagine. Last year they played 2 of the 3 worst teams in the country and
beat the crap out of Ohio State, and it's frustrating.
So yes, the Heisman moment has to come against Penn State and Ohio State, and he has to throw for like 305 in one of those games. I don't know if he has it in him or that the offense wants to do so. Like, I don't think that's the way that Sherrod Moore wants to call the game. So it's probably not going to happen. I think those are bad odds for what it's worth. Like, I would switch him with like Dylan Gabriel, who's plus 3,500, for example. Like, I think that's a better bet. Or Drew Aller at plus 2,500 is a way better bet.
You just mentioned Penn State. I think that there's a shot that those 3 teams, because none of them, I think, have separated themselves in Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, who are clearly the 3 best teams in the Big Ten. If they beat up on each other, would you be willing to throw a little bit of money on Drew Aller or Nick Singleton?
Yeah.
I think there's a shot that they could make the playoffs. And Nick Singleton, I know that he splits time with Katron Allen, but because he's so explosive, he is a household name. Again, I don't know that he makes it, but if Penn State only loses 1 game, if they make it to the Big Ten championship, you know it's likely going to be on Singleton's legs, maybe a little bit of Aller. Like,
see, So I don't think Penn State can do it just with Singleton having a big year. I think we're going to have
for sure,
Drew Aller have a borderline, a legit breakout season, but a borderline like top 5 at the position season to have Penn State get to where they want to be. And this is a really good Penn State team too. Like, I have them top 6, top 7 in my rankings, depending on how where I feel like on LSU at the end of the day, or Tennessee or too. Really, like those are the top 8 teams. Yeah. And so, like, I really like Penn State. So I think Drew Aller could get them to the playoffs. We're having somewhat of a Heisman discussion, but I don't think it's going to come in the back of Singleton. So, like, I wouldn't bet on Singleton. Plus, we're talking about Katron Allen here. 2,500, 25-1 Allers, I think a fine bet, but I'd much rather take, I don't know, 25-1 is we're already talking long shots. I think I'd rather take Marvin Harrison at 22-1.
I know. So would I. That's why he was my long shot. I forgot what I was going to go with that. I was going to ask you one more question, and now I forgot. Oh, I was going to say, that Penn State, which I can't. It's another reason why I cannot wait for this expanded playoff. Would have been in the expanded playoffs in 7 of the last 8 years.
And people are talking about how James Franklin's a letdown as a coach.
Well, yeah, you have to play Ohio State and Michigan almost every single year. Like, that's not easy to do.
And they've done a really good job recruiting against Ohio State, especially too. Like, they're taking kids out of Ohio, and that's a tough thing to do. Like, well, I guess you could say, well, guess what? Ohio State took Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Penn State's backyard.
That's true. That is true.
I guess him and Kyle McCord, right? They're both from Pennsylvania, but I mean, they're recruiting at a high level and they're retaining at a high level. I mean, their strength conditioning program's top notch. There's a lot to like about what Penn State does year in and year out. With the expanded playoff, I think they're finally going to get that recognition. And they're way better than a lot of other teams that they're matched up against. But when you have two somewhat auto losses on your schedule, like, it's hard. And then when you play Wisconsin and the other, or a tough Minnesota team, and you're a 3-loss team, it doesn't nearly reflect how good you are.
Yeah, I personally can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. But when we come back from break, Chris Moxley and myself, and mostly Chris Moxley, if I'm being honest, are going to break down some of the top teams in the group of 5. We're going to preview some of those teams and the players you need to know from the G5 conference for the NFL draft next year.
Campus to Canton.
Patrick Kane, the longtime Chicago Blackhawk, who was traded from Chicago to the New York Rangers this year, set up for free agency. But news came yesterday that he has now had hip surgery at the age of 34, and he is going to be out for 4 to 6 months. Now, Kane is probably going to Toronto as a Hall of Famer. Not to Toronto as a Maple Leaf, but, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's got 3 Stanley Cup rings. He's one of the all-time greats in Chicago Blackhawk this year. I was shocked when I looked at the free agency rankings this year going into the offseason, and Patrick Kane I saw a couple places where he was the number 1 free agent. I saw a few more where he was number 3 or number 4 or 5. I couldn't wrap my head around that. I am surprised, and maybe it speaks more to the available free agents, and I think that is part of the case. I mean, you've got, I guess, Bergeron's out there, Tarasenko, Ryan O'Reilly. To see a guy coming off the season, Patrick Kane had a bad season. It might have been his worst season. He had 57 points in 73 games. I was surprised to see that he would be sought after in this market. Now, he is a veteran. He is a respected dude. He's got the Stanley Cup rings, all of that, but paying $6-7 million a season for a 34-year-old, couldn't see it. And now with this hip surgery that was announced yesterday, who signs this guy? And I mean, Patrick Kane was dealing with a hip issue all year. Now, he played through it, give him credit. He chose to have the surgery. He probably knew that if a team even was interested in him, they'd look at the meds and they'd put him through a physical and say, this ain't gonna happen. So he just decided to take care of it. Now, you play this out 4 to 6 months, you're talking anywhere between October and Christmas for Patrick Kane. So even if you sign the guy, you're going to have a guy nearing 35, and you're going to get him for a half season. So I will be following that market. I mean, is anybody giving him more than a $3 million base or $2 million base? Is anybody giving him more than a year? I mean, sure, there'll be incentives and options and all of that, but there's a guy that lost a lot of money, getting set for NHL free agency. Again, that opens on July 1st.
That is Chris Moxley. I am Matt Bruening. This is the Campus to Canton show on the Better Sports Network, and Mox and I are going to start talking about a G5 preview. If you've been paying attention to us last year, we would have talked about one Dwayne McBride at a UAB who ended up with the Minnesota Vikings, teammate with one Jordan Addison, who you can read more about in Dan Servidio's article, 2023's Fantasy Football Draft Guide's Top 10 Fantasy Football Rookies. And talking about the rookie drafts, you need to head over to Fantasy Alarm and get their Fantasy Football Draft Guide, part of the All Sports subscription. With that, you can get your cheat sheet. It is a one-stop shop for dominating your drafts. It is authored by proven fantasy winners. It can help you win your dynasty leagues, redraft leagues, best ball, and more. You can purchase it for $26.99 or get it for free with a monthly or annual all-pro subscription to Fantasy Alarm. Start your free 7-day trial of Fantasy Alarms All-Pro and get immediate free access to the draft guide. Go to fantasyalarm.com. They will help you dominate your rookie drafts, which are right around the corner. Mox, G5. We got some interesting guys that will be in Fantasy Alarm's draft guide next year as well. But before we get to the players, I want to talk about the top teams. Last year was Tulane, who ended up beating USC in the, I forgot what bowl game it was. This was a really great game, though. Probably except for everybody but Mario Williams.
He had the he did he have the drop or did he give up on the route? What was that?
Yeah, what was it? He dropped
the punt or the kick
the punt
inside the 5.
Yeah, that would have pretty much sealed the game for USC and allowed our guy Michael Pratt to pretty much drive down the field and win.
Yeah. It was the Cotton Bowl.
Cotton Bowl, there we go.
Yeah. The top group of 5 team in the country plays in the near 6 games against one of the conference champs. I mean, that was a spectacular game. Like Tulane was done. Michael Pratt led. You want to talk about a Heisman moment? If that game happened in the regular season, we might be having a little bit different conversation about Michael Pratt. I think at the end of the day,
I mean, USC's defense did everything they could to give him that Heisman as well. They were in shock. They were so.
They were bad against everybody, though.
They were not. Yeah, that's true. I was trying to be complimentary.
Yeah, but I mean, Tulane winning that game was huge. Do I think they're going to repeat? Probably. They have as good a chance as I think a lot of other teams do. They're still a really, really solid team. They're at top of the AAC, and the AAC is super depleted this year. They lost to Cincinnati, they lost UCF, they lost Houston, all to the Big 12, and so it's a worse conference than it was. So Tulane probably has the easiest path to seeing that highest G5 team moniker again. But there are other good teams that I think could do so as well. I want to pick one of these teams, and the problem is they're in the same conference, so I don't know how to. South Alabama returns like 95% of their production. So like I think they're second in returning production in the entire country. They already had a really great season last year. They don't lose anybody really consequential. They lose Jalen Wayne at wide receiver, but they have Devin Vaughn and Colin Lacey, who are both really solid options. And then Troy's coached by John Sumrall, and I think they're just a really solid team.
Really good defense.
Yeah, both these teams too are excellent defensively, and that's really what their calling card is. Yam Banks on South Alabama, like we're focusing on offensive players tonight, but he's a player who's probably going to be drafted in the top 3 rounds. Really, really solid player. But I mean, those are the teams that I'm thinking of that are probably the best teams if you want to like play against them. 2 others that I like are Ohio. And
Bobcats, baby, rise up.
Yeah, Ohio and Boise State, I think, would round out my top 5 of teams that I think could be the best Group 5 team in the country this year.
All right, who were the top 5 offenses you want to watch? Now, a lot of these teams, too, in the G5, now some of them get to play in the week. You'll get to watch them on Saturdays, but it is, if you're looking for offense, if you're one of those guys who does not enjoy watching the 10-7 game because defenses are dominating.
You don't want to watch Iowa football is what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'd rather
poke your eyes out. Yeah.
In my eyes. Yeah. Go ahead, give me the top 5 offenses that you want to watch in the G5.
Yeah, so I'll start with Ohio, who I think is a really good team. Their quarterback, Curtis Rourke, whose brother, I believe, is in the NFL still. Nathan Rourke also played there. He's just like an incredibly gifted G5 quarterback. So G5 group of 5, the non-Power 5 conferences. He could have gone to a Power 5 conference if he wanted to. He was hurt at the end of the year. He's going to be healthy. That entire offense is going to be humming on all cylinders. It's a really, really good team. They're probably going to win the MAC this year. They have to face probably Toledo in the championship game, but I think they're a better team than Toledo, and I don't trust Jason Candle. So if they're on Tuesday or Wednesday, I mean, I'm flipping to that station. I'm watching Curtis Rourke. I'm watching Saban Gora, who's their running back. I mean, it's a really, really fun team to watch.
You know what I just took out of that?
What?
Ohio's got a lot of really good football teams.
That's true. It's the MAC is what? The cradle of coaches? It's the cradle of football.
It really is. It really is. People think it's Texas. Yeah. It's not. It's the beautiful state of Ohio.
Yes. Use beautiful lightly. Another team that I love, Georgia Southern. They ran an air raid. Clay Helton's there from USC. And they brought in Davis Brent from Tulsa this year, and they basically retained their entire receiver core, at least the good players on the receiver core. I love Georgia Southern because their defense stinks. And so almost every game you watch, their rush defense is terrible. Dwayne McBride ran for almost 300 yards against them last year. 300 yards, like 4 touchdowns or something. Like, it was an absurd game because they don't have a rush defense. And so you're in a game where it's like 50-49, and it's fun. They also beat Nebraska last year, which, nice little storyline led to the firing of Scott Frost. But Georgia Southern, I mean, another team you can turn on and see. And by the way, for those who don't know and who want to watch more Group of 5 football, the MAC isn't the only weekday conference this year. Conference USA is going on the weekday schedule.
I know. It's going to be so great.
Oh, man. I think they're starting in October. Then the MAC just starts in November. So you're going to have so much weekday college football, folks.
If you really love football, you're going to have a chance to literally watch football Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You'll start to get some Friday games too as we get closer to November. Already talking about all these Black Friday games too. You'll have college football and NFL. I can't wait, man. I can't.
Every single day of the week.
Every single day of the week. Look. So why you just make? I was gonna say my wife would hate me, but she already kind of hates me. That's a story for another time. We don't need to get.
I have met your wife. She's very nice, and she does not hate you.
She's a fantastic human being. I don't know. Look, we're not gonna get into it. I'll kick my coverage in a major way. Give me your last couple teams so we can talk about the players tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a team that you're probably watching or paying attention to because they're in your neighborhood. SMU. I mean, they're always a team to pay attention to. Their offense is always pretty good. They're got a big air raid philosophy they're going on there. Stay in Texas for a minute. UTSA, they lost their offensive coordinator. I don't care. They bring back their quarterback, Frank Karras, who's just one of the most fun quarterbacks, I think, in the nation.
8th year in college football, too, I believe. Literally 8th year.
I don't know if it's 8, but it is. He had to apply for a waiver, yes.
Pretty close.
He's been in at least 6 years. They have 2 really good receivers there, too, and a really fun running back in Kavorian Barnes. So I love watching that team play as well. And then Western Kentucky, they're like the most pure version of the air raid that you can get. And their quarterback Austin Reed's really fun too. So those are the teams that I just love watching. So if they're on, those are teams that I'm tuning into. Ohio, Georgia Southern, SMU, UTSA, Western Kentucky. Awesome games.
They play Ohio State this year, I believe, in week 2. That Ohio State defense last year was a little shaky. It might actually be a pretty fun game to watch. I'm kind of excited to watch it myself. Me and Hannah won't talk.
49-10?
Nah, 49-13. Come on.
I was gonna say I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but I would probably put that spread at 38.
We mentioned one Michael Pratt earlier, Tulane. He's a guy that, I like to give Felix a lot of crap, but he's a guy that Felix and myself have been talking a ton about since his freshman year in a COVID season where, this dude came out there and he has a legitimate rocket launcher tied to his arm. He can fire that ball pretty much anywhere. Mechanics are a little all over the place. Footwork, not great. But you think he's a player that NFL people should know about going into this year?
Oh, yeah. And you basically did the 30-second preview of him, right? I have compared him to G5 Will Levis. I was out on Will Levis last year.
That's a great call.
Because Will Levis was being considered in the top 5. Michael Pratt is currently not there, so I like Michael Pratt at value. He needs to clean up a lot of his mechanics, but his mechanics also took a big jump from where they were 2 years ago to where they were last year. So I'm not ruling that out either. And there were a lot of rumors that he had big time NIL offers from the Power 5 and said no and stayed at Tulane with Willie Fritz and said, let's run it back. He's a player that I think is really good. I mean, you're talking about his physical tools. He has some of the best in the class.
Yeah, LSU was rumored to be in there. I know there was other SEC teams were rumored to be going after this kid. He's got legit talent. I'm with you. I think there's a shot he's a day 2 pick next year.
I think he gets to round 1. I'd rather bet on him in round 1 than I would who are some of the bad names being listed in round 1 right now?
It's getting a little hot over here, Chris Moxley. I don't know about
Mike.
that.
I'd rather bet on him first round versus Michael Penix first round if I had even odds.
I agree with you. Michael Penix.
Michael Penix is being mocked in like every first round because people don't know these two that had 2 ACL tears and it's horrible outside of Kalen Ford's system.
If you've ever seen Dark Knight Rises, when Bruce Wayne goes to the hospital and he's like, "Oh, your knees couldn't get any worse," he's like, "No, okay." He's like, "No, that's bad. You have no card on your knees." That's Michael Penix. He's got nothing there. It's sawdust.
It's like when Bane like breaks his back. That's Michael Penix every season.
That's Michael Penix. He's broken.
Michael Penix first round stuff is literally uninformed opinion, in my opinion. Like it is uninformed people making those estimations.
We're probably not going to get to any other players because I'm going to go on a little rant.
That's fine. Penix. That's fine.
Michael Penix is not a first-round quarterback. We were on this with Will Levis last year. Look, I don't know.
We were one of the only groups saying that he wasn't either. Everyone else had him there, and so did the market too. To be fair, but like,
I don't know if you know. Do you know who Henry Rosengartner is?
No. How old do you think I am?
It's from the Rookie of the Year movie. You've never seen that movie?
Wait, is he the kid? He's the kid?
Yeah, he's the kid.
Okay.
That's Michael Penix's throwing motion. He does this, and then it just goes. He has no mechanics whatsoever. He is all upper body. He does not use his legs. He doesn't know how to use his legs.
But his velocity on his throw was the top of the country. That's his whole selling point.
He doesn't know how to read defenses. He doesn't throw the ball to the players open. He has no anticipatory throws. Like this kid. Look, I wish nothing but the best for you, Michael Penix, if you ever watch this show.
Oh, I'm sure he's made a ton of money at Washington too. Good for him, dude. He seems like a great guy too. Like I hate talking about him in this like this.
Phenomenal human being, but we got
great human being.
Great human being. As Felix's favorite phrase, by the way.
Felix is getting bodied on the show tonight.
That's what happens when you miss shows. Phenomenal human being. All right, we're going to talk 2 more quarterbacks really quick. We have to tune in next week to find out about these running backs and wide receivers. Preston Stone, you mentioned SMU is one of the teams that you are looking forward to. We've not seen a lot of Preston Stone, and one of the other guys who's usually on the show, one of the co-founders of the website, Campus2Canton, Austin Ace, big fan. What are your thoughts on Preston Stone?
He needed time to develop, and I think the time on the bench was probably good for him. So he played in a private school division in Texas, I believe. I don't want to get that wrong.
Sounds right, but
I'm pretty sure he played in the private school division. He's basically like legacy big time alumni base at SMU. So like he was never going to transfer out. But he's a talented player. He reminds me of, I'm not the first to make this comparison, but like he kind of reminds me of Johnny Manziel in a lot of ways. Like he's way more backyard football than he is playing in structure. But I thought when we saw him last year, he looked pretty good replacing Tanner Mordecai. And I think he could have been better than Mordecai last year because Mordecai made a ton of mistakes. So I like Preston Stone. I think that he's smaller though. He is 6 foot, probably 190, 195 being generous. So, but he's an interesting player who I think could take a big leap next year.
The one thing is Preston Stone doesn't have any issues hearing you through all of his money. So he should hopefully be fairly good at SMU. Give me your 60-second elevator pitch here on one Talon Green. Is it Talon or Talon? I always mess up his first name.
I think it's Talon.
Talon. I was wrong on both. Talon Green, the Boise State quarterback who was a true freshman last year, I believe, and came in at the end of the year, played very well. What are your thoughts on him?
I think he was a redshirt freshman, but either way, we're splitting hairs, right? It was the first season starting.
I mean, you could have just let it go. We're at the end of the show.
But I want to make sure I at least get it right because I do think that he has NFL potential and he's draft eligible this year. He needs work. He's super athletic. He's 6'6", 225, 230 pounds. I mean, he can outrun anybody, super athlete. He reminds me of Anthony Richardson 2 years ago.
Okay.
Not where Anthony Richardson was last year, but Anthony Richardson 2 years ago where he was super raw. He couldn't really do anything, but you saw all of the talent that he had. I can see that trajectory. He just needs someone work on his mechanics, and I'm not sure he's going to get it at Boise State, but it's also why I think Boise State could be the top G5 team in the country this year, because if he takes that step and improves as a passer, he's already rushing for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns a game. I think you could see Talon Green become he doesn't have Heisman buzz, and he never will because he's at Boise State, and nobody watches Boise State. But he's a player who I think could be a sexy group of 5, round 2 name, round 3 name in the NFL draft.
Yeah, I love that call. I would be surprised if he comes out this year. I think he's probably more of a 2025 guy. Maybe he transfers up.
He should be.
Michael Pratt doesn't. But it'll be interesting to see what he does, guys. That is Chris Moxley. I am Matt Bruening. This has been the Campus2Canton show here on the Better Sports Network. You have to tune in next week to find out the G5 running backs and wide receivers that we want. Make sure to check out again that Fantasy Alarm Draft Guide. We will catch you guys again next week. Have yourselves a great weekend.